Hello and welcome replay viewers to this live broadcast from Bradford on Avon. If you missed the live one, at least you can catch it here on the replay. We're taking a look at Bradford on Avon, so welcome along. We'll just wait for a few people to arrive and to enjoy the scenery here in Bradford on Avon. A very historic town, which is on the River Avon. That's a 13th century bridge with a chapel on top, which eventually became used as a lock-up for those who were undesirable or drunk, would be placed in there. We have mills opposite. That's been converted now to apartments and shops over there, and a whole new estate built on what was a Kingston mill, quite a large mill. We have a canoeist coming down the river. Nice tranquil water today, no danger of flooding today. Thank you for joining me. And if you'd like to share this out, please do so. We're going to tell you the history of Bradford on Avon. It goes back over 1,000 years of history coming up for you today. And while a few join, we'll come round this way. Thank you for the hearts, appreciate that very much. The street, little road at the other side of the railings, is the only one in the United Kingdom called the Bull Pit. That is the only one. So it's quite unique. This was a very well-known woolen town, which then turned to rubber. So the conversion over there, that used to be a factory, which was eventually owned by Avon tyres. And so Bradford on Avon moved from wool to rubber, making tyres and other rubber products such as golf grips, gas masks, goodness knows what, anything to do with rubber. Thanks for inviting people. The bridge is 13th century, so we're looking at 700 years there, going across the river. 700 years of history. We're going to go back even further in time. You can see the little chapel on the end of the bridge there, built on the bridge. So this is Bradford on Avon in Wiltshire. This is the River Avon. It doesn't flood as much as it used to. They do put flood barriers up where that white railing is. But at one time it would be several feet deep. Those shops and properties over there would be 5-6 feet underwater at times. But did a flood prevention scheme in the 60s. Added a bit to it recently with global warming. But it's only really had a couple of problems, but not majorly deep. We'll just swing around this way, show you some of the other older buildings. We're going back 700 years to the little Italian restaurant Ravello over there. And we're in this nice little park at the moment here in Bradford on Avon. Lots of history here. So we're going to take on a walk. Please join me as we go down and around Bradford. Coming up, we have another 18th century mill. That was Abbey Mill. That was then taken over in 1900 by Malton Spencer in the rubber industry. Malton, the famous name for the folding bicycle, still made here in Bradford on Avon. And of course also the air suspension, gas suspension that went in the famous Austin Allegro car, if you remember those. Or you English people that might remember them. But that's now all converted into luxury apartments there. We'll call them luxury. Perhaps the people who live there may not do so. I'm just having a look back at the bridge. You say lots of history here. And back to the Kingston Mill over that side. Bradford on Avon is quite hilly. Lots of cottages on the hillside. We'll get to see a few of those in a moment or two, where they were basically weaving sheds that people would weave in their roof space and live underneath. Let's go through the car park a moment, just give you another little view of the older buildings across this park. Beautiful spot. Nice autumn day today. I'm going to cross the river on the footbridge. view of the church. We're going to come up to a church which is a Saxon church, extremely old. Of course, Saxon period ran up to 1066, so it's pre-1066 we'll come up to in a moment. Hope you'll enjoy looking at that. And you can see the properties up on the hillside there. That area is called Tory in Bradford on Avon. Could fish out of the windows, yes, yeah. That's an interesting comment you made there, thank you. And these steps. A little bit of more recent history from Bradford. Olympic winners. Go over the river. There's a church. A view of the river over here. And another view back towards the old Abbey Mill. Now we're going to take you now just on a journey up to the Saxon church. You can actually just see it there. I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we get through. And there are some very grand houses in Bradford and Avon, one of them through this gateway here called Kingston Place. We can't take you to their front door, I don't think they'd appreciate that. So let's go up this way. Very old church here as well. This one's a good 500 years, 600 years old. And we're going to show you what is a Saxon church. So this one predates 1066. And we'll tell you a little bit about this one coming up now. The Saxon Church of St. Lawrence. Now, what you can see there, those two buttresses, they were added in later times, only 100 or so years ago. This church became a school, and the schoolmaster used to live in that chancel that you can see where it was. You can see the place it used to be attached. And then it was purchased by, I think, one of the clothiers, one of the people that owned the mill, and he pulled that down, had to put up the two buttresses to stop it falling down. So something you wouldn't be allowed to do today, to start messing around with a building over 1,000 years old. I'll just go around this way, show you a little bit more. And this is where the wealth was in its day, the clothiers in the wool industry, and then of course the rubber industry that took over later on. Some of the roofs on these places give away their age. Looking 300-400 years old for many of these properties. It's a lovely afternoon for a walk actually, here in November time. It's not bad at all. I'll just show you a few more of these older places. I think that one there is the Kingston House that we saw the entrance to. Now we're going to loop back into the town and show you some more fine, resplendent buildings. There you go. Pretty amazing buildings we have here. So I'll walk back down through the churchyard and come out of the bottom entrance. Have a look at the church spire there. The tower with a mini sort of spire on top. And some very old graves in here. welcome. Thank you everyone that's joining us on this walk. A little bit of history here in Bradford on Avon. It's a town that goes back to Saxon period. There's quite a few people buried here, including Mr. John Jones, I think. Is that John Joyce? Jones. There we go. Here's one for you to look at. Somebody was just 45, I think. Probably one of the wealthy elements of Bradford on Avon, and no doubt this footpath goes back in time as well. So many old graves. All these would have been the better off financially. Although, of course, at the end of the day, it's not made much difference for them now, has it? Another view of Abbey Mill as we approach it. And back round to the Saxon church over there.
That's the one place I quite like to go and have a look before it gets totally spoiled.
So we're just going to walk round the side of Abbey Mill now. Imagine how many people worked in there from the time it was a woolen mill right through to when it became owned by the engineering and rubber industry. There's some more fine old buildings for you to see here. This one's now used as a dentist's. There's a skeleton up in that window up there, look. Is that one of the patients who stayed a little too long? I don't know whether you can see that or not. And this one is Abbey House. Very nice. And a fine property just up the road. And then along here we have the Wallington Hall. This one's around the year 1500. So medieval period, yeah, 1500. Pretty amazing. It's still standing, looking good. Now imagine trying to ask some of the builders today to build something that'll be around 500 years later and still looking good. Probably not. I think the average lifespan of a house before you have to do major work to it in the UK being built is around 60 or 70 years. Not good, is it? And here's the entrance to Abbey Mill. Now, of course, all laid out for the residents with their private parking. But we've got a bit of a history on Abbey Mill. Let's just show you that. This was Bradford on Avon's last new cloth mill, built by Richard Gain of Trowbridge in 1875 on an earlier mill site. Closed in 1902 and then occupied 1914 to 18 by the Royal Cycling Corps and Australian forces. It was acquired by Spencer Moulton, then Avon Rubber in 1956, producing springs for road and rail vehicles, and later as offices until 95. And of course in 97 it became the current usage of apartments. There's a magnificent building up there too. Bradford on Avon is just full of these wonderful properties, which you can see over there. Some amazing properties. And what we're coming up to now is the old town hall on the end, with a little turret on top, we call that. I'll take you over to another information book. This is the church house. This was restored around 1730 for the attorney at law Christopher Brewer on land lease from the Methuen Methuen have got a big stately home in Corsham, not too far from here. It was later occupied by the lawyer Daniel Clutterbuck, who died in 1769. From 1821, the Help House, Philpot and Louderbank, which failed in 1842, bought by Thomas Wheeler and leased to the North Wilts Bank until 1861. All interesting stuff. Sorry. So again, absolutely amazing buildings. Look at that window system there. And you get things like this on the wall. I wonder who they are. So ahead of us we have the little gap in the road there, that's called the Shambles. We'll take a walk down there in a moment. Now we're going to show you a very old pub and hotel. This again is hundreds of years old, the black and white one over there, the Swan Hotel. And so the building immediately we've just been going past is the old town hall. We'll take a look at that from the other side of the road. And there's a Swan. Building on the far side there, just opposite, was the old post office. Again, we'll look up the hill, see the age of these buildings. Got a new road layout now. They've put all this money into making COVID safe streets so that the pavements are wider, like making the traffic one way. You can see this actually used to be the police station many years ago. Built into the town hall, so now it's a series of shops and a Catholic church and a bank, all in one. Let's walk up here a little further. It's quite a steep hillside along here. We'll cross over in a second or two and show you the other side. Look down the road. Cross safely. It's an old wall to what was a grand old house behind there, which somebody managed to buy and demolish long before sort of planning permission would have affected it too much. Let's go back down the hill. It's the grand old town always was. Magnificent sort of structure really, isn't it? The days when towns all had their own town hall before it became sort of centralised county government. Every town had its town hall, and of course that's all changed. Thank you for everybody who's given me hearts and for sharing out as well. Appreciate that. It's very nice of you. Thank you. We put most of our periscopes where they're saved properly onto my YouTube channel, Roland's Travels. The link is in my Periscope description. Of course, they are higher quality then, so you can always watch them later. So that's the road we came out of earlier, and the Catholic church on the end, 1854. Now we're going to go down what is the Shambles. And we have a gold post box rather than the red one because of the Olympic winners we had in Bradford and Avon. There you go. And gold post box. And this is the Shambles. Starting to put the Christmas lights up ready. So lots of little shops along here. Of course, we are currently, as I record this, we're still in a lockdown period, so only certain shops can stay open. These bay windows look nice, don't they? Thank you for joining me. We're going to take a look at Coppice Hill. We're not going to go up there, but we'll just show you how steep that is. And again, another very old street in Bradford and Avon. We'll do that one another day. Another travels one to cover the hillsides. A lot of these hills have a chapel or a church on top as well. When we come back out to our right is the bridge we started out from, down there. There we go. I think there's only one. You asked me a question if there's how many Catholic churches. I think there's only one. We'll just go partly up the hill a little bit, show you a little bit more this direction, and then we'll cross over. Again, we've got this measure in place on trial to make the pavements wider due to COVID, so people have got more room to pass. There's the estate agent's windows if you want to buy a property here in Bradford on Avon. Thanks for tapping the screen and giving me some hearts. That's great. Thank you very much indeed. So we'll just get to the junction, then we'll come back round. Oh, interesting. Someone's just made the point that your grandparents may have been married in that church. Ah, interesting. You have to check that one out on the old genealogy sites. Again, another magnificent old building here. So don't make them like that anymore. That's it. We'll stop at this point and then go back down the hill. Just give you a view of that street. That's for another day further on. Now that was the Spencer's Ale and Porter store in 1884. There you go. And now you can have the space to let for your own business if you wish. It's amazing architecture. There is so much variety here, and most of it in this area is very old, of course, as well. Nice range of traditional shops here in Bradford and Avon still remain, which is nice. A hardware shop over there, for instance. You don't get too many little hardware shops these days. Just cross over in a second. Let's take a little wander down here for a minute. Say, Bradford and Avon's rich industrial past was really wool, and then it moved on to rubber, to making things out of rubber, particularly tyres, windscreen wipers. And just up the road there's Sir Alex Moulton's home. He makes this Moulton cycle. That's a little folding one which costs you an arm and a leg, but they're still made in Bradford. They've actually moved to a different area now, just up the road out of Bradford, newer modern factory. But they were the inventors of the famous suspension that went in the Austin Allegro, hydrogas, what have you. Right. So again, this was offices belonging to Avon Rubber at one time, and all of this has been built to resemble the area and mix in with what was already here. I'm going to show you an old industrial machine in a second, just to give you a bit more of history. So there you go. What was this? This was what they called a calendar machine. It binds rubber sheets reinforcing fabric into it, and then vulcanised. So it's all interesting. There's the name Moulton first occurred. Stephen Moulton, 1794. The Moulton family still been making the rubber products and suspension parts and bicycles. There we go. Let you see these stories. And there's Stephen Moulton. So, quite good. Right. So just go back down towards the bridge. As my battery is getting quite low actually right now. Wasn't fully charged before I came out, unfortunately. But we'll just get down in time to complete our scope for today. As I say, you'll be able to see the high definition one, hopefully, probably tomorrow or so, a day or so's time on my YouTube channel. And again, look at this angle as well. You see different things from different sides of the street. There's a little shopping centre area in there, part of the old buildings, which is nice. They've left as much up as possible of the old stuff. Yeah, it's a lovely little place. Just a small town. And thank you for joining me on my walk. Back to the Shambles over there. We walked through there a little earlier. If you missed it, just catch us on the replay. And we go back down to the bridge. The 13th century bridge, would you believe it? Still standing after 700 plus years. There's a weight restriction on it now for lorries, so the big trucks can't come over, or shouldn't. Some of them try. I think their sat-navs direct them over when they shouldn't come. Again, magnificent old properties. So years ago, this area would have been 4 or 5 feet in water on a very heavy wet day. But they put in flood prevention measures, and that's by and large stopped it. Had the odd flood, I think we had 1, maybe 2 small floods here in the last 10 years. Mainly due to the amount of rainfall that we've suddenly increased. Oh, now that's going to be blinding sunshine, isn't it? So I'll just go back here, show you up there, back to the town hall tower. And the same, we've got this new traffic system in place, made it one way. There's a newer development over there that's converted the old mills into apartments and shops. The town is older than 1,000 years, yes, and there's we went earlier on in the scope to a church which was pre-1066. It was Saxon church, 900 years, 800 AD, 800, 900 AD, something like that, maybe earlier. And we'll just walk across the bridge. We may find my battery will die, but we'll get down sure. The sun's not too bright on your screen. I've got it right in my eyes at the moment. Back over the River Avon. There used to be another big mill complex further down there. Just see part of it that's left. It's over there. And one even further down the river. That's the library over there. Inside the library, when it's open, they've got a lovely little town museum, free to enter. So if you do come to Bradford and Avon, pop in there and you'll be able to do that. The restaurant there, that's the Weaving Shed. Their chef was on MasterChef. He got knocked out the other day. So the chef there was on MasterChef and a current series on BBC One. Coming up to the old chapel. This was built with the bridge, 13th century. Nice to have Christian join us. Thank you very much, and for being a moderator here. Thank you, appreciate that. Another view of the river, and of course this 12th century chapel. Just up on top of the weather vane, now there's a fish. That fish is a gudgeon. That's well known for that. Lovely. I'll just show a view all the way back of the buildings there. I'll just walk around here for a second. Right, mate. That's the bridge tea rooms there. Very old building. See how that's bulging out? Yeah. There we go. So we just go a little bit further along where the older buildings tend to start running out a little bit. It's amazing around here, isn't it? Yeah. Very, very old part of England. In the early days of moving out of wattle and daub huts into stone and brick buildings, or stone particularly. Bradford and Avon used to have a couple of quarries. Some are underground caves. In fact, one was turned into a mushroom factory. And there we go. We're coming up to a few modern ones, a new surgery down there, but they've built them in a similar style, which is nice. They don't stand out of place, do they? Don't look too bad at all. And then you get things like St Margaret's Steps, that takes you to another older part of Bradford and Avon up there. You can see at the top, older properties again. Really amazing to have a look at. If we carry on, we'll come. You can just see, I don't know if you can see it or not, there's a railway level crossing. Just see the arm is raised, the red and white arm. So we go past this Audi TT, and then we've got some newer properties built to blend in. So thank you very much for joining me today on my walk around Bradford and Avon. This is what I've been trying to do, and the weather's turned out kind. Nice and bright as well. Very little breeze, so we're not getting a lot of noise on the microphone. And if you haven't done so, please follow me. Also look at my YouTube channel, Roland's Travels. The link is in the bio here on Periscope. And I hope to see you again in the near future. And it's been great having you along the journey. Do take care.